Let's start with getting out our writing intention sheet. Today is 10-5. Today as a writer, I am working on editing using Iadd. You all have been doing such a great job, and as we are finishing up our story, we need to edit and check before we get into publishing. Today as writers, we are going to use the Iadd strategy. We have looked at this before and used it to help write our stories. Now we need to check to see if we have it all part of our story. Who remembers what Iadd stands for without looking at your paper? Let's say it all together. I, inner thinking. A, action. D, description. And the last D, dialogue. Today we are going to look through our stories scene by scene to see if we included Iadd, inner thinking, action, description, and dialogue. A scene is the spot where your story takes place, just at that time. So your story should have plenty of different scenes. Let's take a look at my first scene in my story. Time and time again she tried. "Hold on to me for just a minute longer, Daddy," she begged, but it just didn't work. No matter how hard she tried, she just couldn't ride the bike without falling off. Her knees were already skinned from falling so many times, and her mom threatened to put the training wheels back on. Every time her dad ran behind her while holding her up made her immediately panic and fall over. As I'm taking a look at just my first scene, I need to make sure I have my Iadd sheet out with me. To help me edit my story, I'm going to take four different pens so I can have different colors for one, inner thinking, a different color for action, a different color for description, and different color for dialogue. First part that I'm going to focus on is my inner thinking, and I'm going to use my purple pen for this one. Looking at the story that I just read, I don't see any inner thinking of my character, so I have nothing to underline for my first scene. So that's one thing I need to add to my story is inner thinking. So right now, I think right after the sentence where it says, her knees were already skinned from falling so many times and her mom threatened to put the training wheels back on, I'm going to add, "I am too old for training wheels," she thought to herself. So now I have inner thinking in my first scene. Let's take a look at action. The action in this scene would be, every time her dad ran behind her while holding her up made her immediately panic and fall over. So I don't need to add any more action. Let's look at description. Turn and talk with your partner to see if you found any description in my story. I know I saw her knees were already skinned from falling off so many times. That part described what her knees looked like. Turn and talk with your partner for this last one with dialogue. Do I have dialogue in this scene? "Hold on to me for just a minute longer, Daddy." That is my character's conversation and talking in the story. As you can see, I just took one scene and I went through everything using the Iadd strategy. I couldn't find any inner thinking, so I needed to add inner thinking to my story. Action, I found action, so I took a colored pen and I underlined the action. For description, I took a different colored pen and I underlined where I saw description in my scene. And for dialogue, I did the same thing. I underlined where the dialogue was in my scene. You are going to do that scene by scene in your story today. Today, as you go, you will be going through each scene in your story and underline inner thinking, action, description, and dialogue. You may use the flare pens, colored pencils, or thin markers. You will need only 4, all which are a different color. Today needs to be a silent writing time. We will be pulling groups for spelling. Let's make today a great day for writing. Are there any questions?